Hello, and welcome to our first session. Here we're going to be looking at critical practice. I'd like us to consider various definitions of critical. I'd like to think about how critical thinking can relate to our practice. I'd like to present you with some different models of critical thought, and hopefully this will suggest strategies that can support with critical thought. So first of all, what is critical? Well, the OED states it involves the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment. And I think, of course, the key words here are objective, that idea of taking a step back from a situation, analysis, breaking something down into its component parts, and then looking at how that works, how well that works in context, is crucial. And here's an image from the Visual Dictionary, because I think it's quite helpful to think of critical as critique here, because really what you're doing is you're critiquing something. And again, the same keywords: analysis, evaluation, assessment, appraisal, review, and also here discourse. The idea of talking with somebody in order to support you to analyse and evaluate that situation. And we'll be developing this idea of discourse as part of critical practice throughout our programme. So, another definition of critical thinking. It's reasonable reflective thinking that's focused on deciding what to believe or do. It isn't a static thing, it's part of a wider process. So it's part of your reflective practice. You think critically about a situation or an issue, a scheme of work, something that you're working on, and you think about how that's working. You take a step back from it, you're objective about it, and you evaluate it. So here's a question. What kind of personal attributes do you think would support a critical position, and why is that so? And I'll post that question as an informal question on the forum. And if you're interested, Hong Kong University have developed a whole suite of resources surrounding critical thought, and although you can't access the link from the video, underneath the video on our course pages you'll see a link to the Prezi itself, and through that you can access the link here and any other links within the presentation. So how does critical thought relate to our practice? Well, I've got two different kind of reflections here, a teacher reflection and a student reflection, but both feel that the idea of critical thought is quite useful. And the learner here mentions a framework, and I'm going to be presenting you with some possible frameworks you could use to provoke critical thought in a range of situations. Now, we're moving on from this idea of one's own objectivity, and I'd like us to consider how evaluating a situation from different perspectives might support practice when teaching GCSE English. So I'd like us to think about how gathering other opinions, other critical opinions, think about this idea of discourse and how that might support our practice. And I'll look forward to contributing to the forum discussion there. Now what I'm going to do is simply present you with three models of critical thinking. There's one here I prefer, I will tell you which one it is, but they're all very good in their own different ways. So models of critical thinking, first here's one based on Bloom's taxonomy, which looks at critical question stems, starting off with knowledge, moving up through to synthesis and evaluation. And you've got some key words here, and you've got some critical questions. Second, now this is far more complex. This is actually an interactive tool, a resource developed from the Foundation for Critical Thinking, and what you do here is you click on the particular issue or idea that you're wanting to explore, and it will bring you up a different box depending on where you've clicked. So really quite interesting there. You do have to go on the web pages to look at it, but I'd strongly advise you to do so. It's really interesting. You may find, however, that when it comes to practice you prefer a simpler model. I know I do. This is a model that looks very straightforward, but of course it's not always straightforward because the context of our working lives is complicated. So you're looking at the classroom as a kind of dynamic social network when you're actually looking at the simple questions, who and where, these are far more, like, the answers you get are far more complex than in a straightforward environment. So a simple model to be used in a range of situations, but one that doesn't always generate simple answers. Okay, so returning to this idea of discussion, of different perspectives. Plymouth University, who developed the simpler model previously, state that thinking critically means asking questions. Instead of accepting at face value what you read or hear, critical thinkers look for evidence and for good reasons before believing something to be true. And this is at the heart of what it means to be a scientist, researcher, scholar, or professional in any field. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that this is indeed crucial. We cannot accept things on the surface. We've got to look for deeper interpretations. We've got to really examine a situation from an objective perspective. I think that's where discussion can also help. It supports the synthesis of ideas. It supports solutions. So as well as helping you analyse a situation or a scheme of work, or an issue of some sort, it also supports you sort of finding ways around this. A critical friend is somebody who you would identify as somebody you could trust to question you effectively, to question you, and you could question them about this particular issue. And they're often found at sort of master's level study. So if you've already got a master's, you're probably very aware of what a critical friend might be. Somebody to support you as you reason through arguments and to discuss things with you with the aim of helping you analyse your own situation. And again, there's some further reading here that you might be interested in about these ideas of critical thinking. So, this week, for our live discussion, we've got a critical question, and it's going to be what you think the biggest issue facing us as practitioners is when using digital technology in the classroom. So quite a broad question. We'll be meeting up in small groups. We'll be discussing this through live audio chat, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing your responses. Also, please feel free to talk about this on the forum previously. And the references, so if you're interested in any of the materials I've briefly shown you here, you can access them through the links on the reference page. Thank you very much.